Newcomb's paradox, or playing chess with God, or any super intelligent AI, or an alien being with super high IQ, or like Hal, the super villain in 2001 Space Odyssey. What would it be? What would it be like to play chess with an infinite intelligence being like God, who's not only telepathic but highly intelligent? Can you beat it? That's essentially what we're trying to do when trying to kill or quash, quell ego. We're essentially trying to, it's an impossible problem basically. It's like catching our own tail. Ouroboros, snake, devouring its own tail. It's an impossible catch 22 problem, and we cannot bootstrap out of it from swamp like Munchausen. I don't even know why I said Munchausen. Who was Munchausen? Because was no wait, Munchausen was the Munchausen syndrome, and then there was another Munchausen problem. Okay, was it? There's a different Munchausen, I guess. So playing chess with God or an infinite intelligence being. Imagine playing chess with Stockfish or like I don't know Houdini, and it knows it can brute force its way to like prune search the trees of so many different endings. Imagine a being who has in a one glimpse, in one flash, sees all the answers to all the games and the database. It has a complete database of all the games that can be played, and it's a mind-boggling large number, right? For that intelligent being, will never play chess to win because he will always win it, and if it wants to lose, it's on purpose. So when you become so intelligent, if you play chess, that is actually a sign of non-intelligence. Because why would you want to do that? Unless because another person, like a normal human being with an average IQ, we can never beat it. So if some intelligent person were to play chess with me for money, I would be incredibly suspicious of it, or other bet. I actually don't know the details of Newcomb's paradox, but let's explore the idea what it would be like to beat an infinite intelligence, sentient, highly superconscious being, super alien, playing chess. Okay, so let's simplify and talk about tic tac toe. Um, because if you were to play tic tac toe with a baby and you're this guy who knows about everything about perfect information, symmetry, and game theory, you have on your laid out in front of you all the answers of tic-tac-toe games, and you'd never play with a kid or a baby or even someone who doesn't know all the answers, who is not privy to all the answers. And I don't know how many variations are there, like at most what, a database of what, 100 or even more. I think there are probably more, but their winning databases probably is very limited, and you have that answer, so why would you want to even play? So God kind of sandbags himself to like to play this. He's pretending to be us, this weak guy with a problem with stutter, with ASL, with uh, genetic problem of immune deficiency, or like we have weakened immunology. He's pretending to be this frail, weak person just so he can get the more kick of it. Well, I say he, but it's basically like whatever God is, the energy, the ultimate consciousness. So could that be it? The only reason why we play chess not to win, but just to see, just to explore the win, what leads to a win, and possibly, if you're playing to win, that just shows you don't get it. Then because you pride on yourself on finding the winning strategy, but if you are to play about a trillion games in a row, can you find the winning strategy in every game? Because there's limit to the intelligence. How much intelligence is there any cutoff point where we realize that the intelligence, it doesn't matter beyond that point how much how intelligent you are or how less intelligent you are, because it just doesn't make sense anymore. For instance, stockfish is estimated to be what, about 3,000, What ELO rating is by basically makes the whole thing meaningless. Suppose you have a gazillion ELO rating. What does it even mean? That no one can beat you in chess? Or like you're that super intelligent being who knows all the answers? But what if the kicker is we are that being, we're the God who somehow we're hiding the fact but with our ego, our pretensions, our game, love and lust for this game of the earthly realm, that we're not privy to that omniscience and the Akashic record. And sometimes some people get a glimpse of it, but it's not like we're not like Bane wearing a mask with the thing siphoning and in our vein the whole super intelligence. Maybe the whole maybe if I was a real super intelligent being, I'll try not to be super intelligent, and that's the whole joke and rub of it. And we humans are missing the joke. I'm not saying suffering, and it's not a way to justify suffering, but probably what if that what if because ultimately that's what it's two chord TLDR. That's what it really means, that we are all God. If we are all God, that means we can we are putting limitations on ourselves just to forget the fact that we are not God. So how would you actually beat a being, telepathic being, omniscient being, playing chess? You can. So what could you do? What could be the starting rules? Well, suppose you have a bet that you can't beat him and you play. Now we know that that being will win no matter what. Reminds me of the Alan Watts story about the von what was his name? Not von Clausewitz, that's the army guy, military general guy. Von something. Not von Clausewitz. Von something, the German guy who wrote the story of the bear who can read thoughts, and the only way the guy with the axe, the woodsman, could defeat him was the moment he gave up, surrendered. No, he said he that gave up, and I don't even know the story. So basically, the bear, the guy surrendered, and the bear said, "Oh, got you!" And at that moment, as the bear was about to pounce on him, he took the axe and slaughtered him, like cut him in half. And that's a symbolic metaphor of killing the ego. The only way we can, you know, end all this bullshit is not. I mean, yeah, you can drop psychedelic, but other than that, it's like basically we don't have any control over it. We can surrender. Nothing we can do. It's kind of like sticky, like your hand is sticky and you try to open the faucet, and in that process you make it more sticky, and then you get the water and you try to rub your fingers and you make it more sticky, and it's like nothing. The more you do, more effort you put, the more stickier it becomes. So what would be a way to beat that being, God, playing God in chess? Well, you can start playing and you know you're gonna lose. So the best you can actually do is like troll God. Play the way you'd really want to play. Like start with freaking samurai opening or something. H4. And maybe that's the whole point of it. Did we know we can never reach perfection? And we shouldn't even try to reach perfection or that image. Not everyone can look like Tom Hardy and be a Navy SEAL and get a genius MacArthur, or even though there are some astronauts who is the Navy SEAL and like highly super genius. But the point being, so why should we even try? Because ultimately it's just an illusion that we're putting on. Like we are trying to pretending, we're patching things up with 10,000 arms and we're pretending it'll somehow hold. It's like imagine a dilapidated jalopy and it's all falling apart and we have 10,000 arms and we're each arm is trying to patch this whole thing up with our little nuts and bolts and everything into this form, in this recognizable shape, and it's just ultimately it's gonna fall apart. That's what I've been doing my whole life, trying to memorize dictionary, Gray's Anatomy, Shakespeare, and ultimately, like I used to be in a security job and trying to memorize the conch shells encyclopedia, and what it looks like could have been viewed as a massive waste of time, and ultimately it was smoothing the waters of an ocean with an iron. It was impossible, but and it took me that route to realize the point that I can never be someone else. I cannot be that Will Hunting like character or Bradley Cooper in Limitless. Even though you can come close to it with Adderall, modafinil, and keto diet and fasting and fasting, but you shouldn't even try to, and that's the whole point the self-help industry misses. And we create a problem and we try to find the solution to it. And so that's why I let it all my guard down. I started doing podcasts because this is my core being, raw, essential me in its purest, without any, Orlon as the Bengali word said, or ornamentation. And I love how Ajahn Brahm's coach, I mean his boss, his monk, Ajahn Chah, forced him to give all these talks for 1 hour. And after he was done, he said again, like, Arby? Miracle of the movie? That guy, I don't know. I don't even know what the ice hockey movie. Like, again, that scene, and he did that for 1 more hour, and then again he went again, and he did that for 1 more hour. I don't know if he did it for 3 hours or 5 hours. He stopped nonstop for 3 hours, and by the time he was exhausted, he was just mumbling, just babbling on. So yeah, the playing chess with God, the whole Newcomb's paradox. The most you can actually do is just play, go on with it, even though you lose, and you can find out. But then you get frustrated because you know that you'll never win. So why even play? And that's why some people who have, like, I guess, mental illness, it becomes too tough for it, because like the Joker movie, it's like, Alan Watts would say that you don't want it to be too predictable, and you want to have no control at all. You want to feel like you're doing something, you're moving, and moving, like you're making a difference. That's what people say. Like, I'm trying to make a difference, and that's the illusion people have. We're making a difference, whether it be climate change and that's good. That's our fair and dandy, fine and sundry. I mean, that's all fine. But the thing is, it's still an illusion. It's just an act that we're playing with, the role we're pretending. I mean, the optimal, efficient way a super intelligent being would be, a super consciousness would be the effortless way of a Taoist, like the water. You would make no effort whatsoever. It'd be spontaneous and just. And we get this bad rap about flowing through life, but that's precisely what you want to be, like autopilot. And the reason why it gets a bad rap is because we've been brainwashed, programmed by media and other, we have by things that we don't want to be programmed with, and that program is running us, and that's we're on autopilot. But ultimately, you do want to be an autopilot. It's just that you want to be an autopilot. It's like some people are riding the roller coaster and having with the hairpin turn, and they're having a bad trip, and and there are other people who are having a relatively good trip, and they want it to be an extraordinarily even better trip, but ultimately it doesn't even matter because it's just still a trip. And sometimes the worst trips can turn into the best trips of your life. So, and the more you try, the more you force it, more to get out of your natural groove, you just lose your soul. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be perfect, or you shouldn't polish your speech, or you shouldn't polish or master your craft. But there comes a point in life where, like, I was watching this video of John Bon Jovi, and I was like, wow, look at this guy, heartthrob of the 90s or 2000, and look at him now. I wasn't feeling pity for him, because I'm sure his spirit is all shining forth and whatnot. But hey, life catches on. Old age, suffering, death, it catches on. And that's what COVID-19 is saying. It's like, no matter how hotshot you are, and there's nothing wrong going through a life trying to be a badass or pretending to be a badass, but Sometimes the more you try, the more you don't make it. So the best is to just give up and surrender. And by surrender, I don't mean like surrender, like a passive way, but there's nothing you can actually do. No matter by law, by definition, whatever you're up to is bound to fail. Okay, so you have climbed Everest. That don't impress me much. That don't impress me much. That's not gonna make women stay awake in the middle of night. That don't impress me much. So you climb Everest. Then what's next? What comes next? Actually, Everest is closed right now. I'm not knocking people who are trying to achieve. If that was the natural way, then go for it. And by natural, I don't mean effortless. By natural, I mean that's what you really, really want to do. I mean, but not all people want to be in the spotlight, in the center of attention. And when I was young, I was highly against this idea. I found it disgusting that everyone should try to be center of attention, and why are people like I was like, Paul Harris is such a brilliant magician. I heard, well, why doesn't he get as much recognition as David Blaine? But then, as soon as I matured, not as soon, like as I matured, I realized that that's not the point of it. The point of life is not, like, hey, look at me. I thrive for those moments when things happen naturally, and that's the thing with comedy routines. It's so overdone and overcooked and overproduced, overwritten and over edited. It just loses its humor for the most part. And that's why Conan is funny when he's doing his remote, or Smigel when he's off script. I mean, because that's what real humor is. Again, by no means this is not, but we tend to overdo things, overcraft or craft, over hone our abilities, over polish it, and that kills it. Be it producing YouTube video or whatnot. That's what I loved what Eminem started doing. Like, fuck music. If you're talented, you can just take a mic and just rap anything about anything. And then he went for like 30, 20 minutes straight without music, a cappella. Again, if you want to write, just take a fucking word pad. You don't need like a higher, like, as Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss fucked me up because I spent $50 on a book cover and he didn't ever sell a copy. And on the other hand, I patched something up in Paint, and it didn't, obviously it didn't overshoot, but it has a consistency. So just because you spend too much effort and invest time and energy, it doesn't mean it will. Just because you're giving the illusion that you're working hard and putting effort doesn't actually mean guarantee jack shit. So as I was saying, um, the book, yeah, don't overdo it. Don't overcook your fish. It's another Taoist advice. Don't overfry the small fish. Because by saying you should succeed, automatically then you set up a scenario and situations where millions of marginalized disabled people are not living up to that. And by disabled, I mean both physically and mentally and everything. And that's the real extreme opposite, like extreme end of it. Because your self-help people, or no matter who, everyone who tries to sell something to you, project this idea, that image, what you should be, even your best version of yourself. What the fuck does that even mean, best version of yourself? As if there's this perfect version where you can speak or you talk or where you act, and there is no perfect outline silhouette on the wall that Roadrunner can crash through. And it's just, again, you're like patching this thing up, this trying to hold together this jalopy, and was bound to fall apart by second law of thermodynamics, entropy. That's why I love the concept of Li as a heart from Alan Watts. Chinese apparently have a different concept of Li and order. Like a shuffle deck can be an order in the right context, whereas an arranged deck is not in order. Take a shuffle deck, and somehow the next moment somehow comes and somehow recites that deck in order without even looking at it, without even knowing it, without even looking at it, or like you print something out on the wall, like you do some magic thing, that has more meaning and order somehow than, or for instance, even take a Rubik's Cube, you can take in different variation and configuration, and if you come to that same exact configuration by shuffling it, then that's still order in chaos. But I'm talking about another order. Like by Lee, I understand a different order. Like right now, my room is a mess. The bed is not made. There's clothes strewn around. Everything is. Maybe that itself is the perfect order. Just like you go to a prison cell and there's a rope hanging, everything looks messy. There's a piece of tissue paper, and then with MacGyver ingenious, you find this device, use the rope, and you connect it to the broomstick, and you take the match and you coil the tissue paper, and if somehow you find a breakaway, like a breakthrough out of your prison. But in order for that to happen, that prison had to be exactly in that order, the supreme order, for you to, and maybe reality is in that perfect order in this whole mess. We just don't know it. Maybe everything that is messed up and random. That's why creativity flourishes actually in the whole phrase, the whole story about Einstein saying, if empty mind is, if messy mind is sign of messy if messy clutter is something on the line of messy table or messy room is a sign of messy mind, then clean mind is a mind of, you get my idea. But the point being, though, what thing is that really I'm trying to say is you can also go in the opposite direction. In order for creativity to flourish, you do have to get into the zen like state, this environment where everything is neat and clean and everything. So ultimately it's what you want, and something that you are, that is, see, my this whole room that I'm in is actually it's like a brain actually. It's like my exploded brain. It's like someone took my brain and splattered and exploded this whole, splattered across the whole wall, basically, because it's a projection of my inside. And that's perfect in its own imperfect way. As in, that's who I am. You can't change yourself. And most people spend years and years trying to make a round hole a square peg, force this into mold, this iron made in a mold basically, and they do more damage, just like Cinderella's envious stepsister. We cut our feet to fit into this perfect shoe of perfection, and hoping that someday everything will be magical, but it's not. So don't self-improve. And most people take that as a message that, okay, be like imperfect, but that's not what I'm saying. The people think that natural means imperfect, and your ordinary. That's why last time I said, Chow Chow was asked, "What is the Tao?" and he said, "Or your ordinary consciousness is the Tao." Maybe that is it. And every time we get high or whatever, we just have an illusion that we're into better state, in the Taoist state, the highest state. But when in reality, this or the real ordinary, our ordinary natural state is probably the most pristine. I try to think of it as an acid trip. It's like our whole entire life is an acid trip, I guess, even though I haven't taken acid. It's almost like throws you into this roller coaster ride through a simulation reality where you experiences these things, even including the things of getting high, and which is a meta concept, like you're getting high in a high state. It's almost like Inception, like Matrushka doll, in reality inside reality inside reality. So, and we do this, and and even if you lead a boring normal life, most bland life, that itself is like an acid trip actually. Even though without getting high or anything on psychedelics or anything, the most boring, most normal, bland life you can imagine, someone who made no difference on this earth. But your life, that life doesn't have to be Kafka's meaningless. Like, it probably has more. Like, if I were to post this video and title Newcomb's Paradox, I mean, that doesn't say much. Or like, if I were to put a grandiose title like, can you defeat God in chess or something? That's saying something more. Or if I were to just say episode 3, right? Just episode 3 is like, if you put a footnote, an epigram of your life in the one, you cannot put an encapsulate your whole life into one sentence or one phrase or 6 letter or 6 word document biography. It's like then you're missing all this nuances and richness, and everything has a meaning, like even the tiny particles, like probably. Okay, I'll give a great example. I was in hospital for quarantine for 14 days hold, and there was this relatively chubby girl, and she and I was joking, like we watched this. um I was like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to order pizza? And we were on a 14-day hold for things were fucked up. And all of a sudden, she happened to know the number of the Pizza Hut. What are the odds of that? That blew me away. But I didn't have enough balls to actually order pizza from hospital. But the point being, so somehow her subconscious registered the number, and the fact that that's what context meant, and the fact that it came handy at that exact time when I say, hey, I would love to order some Pizza Hut, and she said, oh, the number is this, and I called, but then I hung up. So things like that has more meaning than like getting like 800 billion views and likes on a video that from people who you have never met in real life. That's what gives meaning to life, not only personally, to other people, normal people's lives. Whether you be reading miracles about everyday people, you're experiencing God in an accident, where the whole car flipped over and then suddenly some angel or some obscure unknown guy came and dragged him out. You don't know, like, unless you live and experience someone else's life, you don't know what has meaning to them. But nothing is waste. So going back to Newcomb's paradox and defeating an intelligent, it's like defeating the system. How do you defeat the system? Whether it be Matrix or like Equilibrium with Christian Bale, or any system, Orwellian system, totalitarian system, and it has to have a blind spot, and ultimately people exploit that and takes the axe and starts, you know, hammering away at the Achilles heel, and until it just explodes. The part not touched by sticks and river sticks, and but another thing is, you can pretend you can do nothing, basically. I mean, you pretend that you're in the, like, how in the scene in the Equilibrium with Christian Bale, he was pretending he was still taking those vaccine or whatever, to like keep him like blissfully ignorant, I guess. That's actually ironic, because you can't show emotion in that movie. So but the point being, like, you have to blend in and pretend everything is okay, even though you have to be of the world and not of the world. And that's the only way to beat the system, I guess. The system, this whole. Because everything you wish for can be given to you instantly. If universe can reorganize itself, universe is a self-organizing system, being like this self-aware. Amit Goswami's book, Self-Aware Universe, Soma, self-organizing something. The point being, universe can reorganize all these particles and configurations and dynamics to give you the wish, but why bother? Best is to not. With prayer can be so effective. God can give you everything that you want in an instant, but why force it? So you just blend in. It's kind of like how do I say? Suppose you're a Navy SEAL, right? And no one knows that, and you get a job in this corporate office, and you don't even advertise yourself. Oh, I'm this badass. You just blend in. You just become a gray man. That's the thing I'm looking for. Just you become a gray man, and you pretend everything is perfect, and you blend in and you go with the flow. And someday, the system traps itself like it already has. But although it is the incipience, I mean the inception is from biological outbreak, but ultimately the system traps itself. Mankind is realizing the system that we were feeding off was not working. We're rushing to war. We drop our children to school while schools get blasted and brush fired. with AKs and AR-15, we huff and puff, and we endanger our lives and other people's lives thinly under the sword of Damocles and hanging by the freeway, that and for rushing for this thing, ultimate next thing. And it's everyone, even me included. Like the life that we were leading was led to this diseased and corrupt state where we trapped ourselves, and it is a literal trap. We are already quarantined, and it's like the room is getting smaller and smaller. The noose is getting smaller and smaller unless we're trapping ourselves, and the walls are all colliding and caving in. And what if it comes to a point where the I mean, just if you open your windows and breathe outside, some people has it in your area, and the question is not if you get it, if you whether you'll get it, about when will you get it, and the only thing you can do when you're trapped is just to succumb to it and not fight it, and because the system will trap itself, whatever the system is, and it reorganizes itself and send us the solution, and that's a reflection of ego. Like the more you try to get rid of ego, it'll trap itself. Ultimately you'll be trapped. So whether it be metaphysical, physical, spiritual, astral, mental, brain, or even physical, ultimately it'll all work so that ultimately you're forced to understand that you're trapped, and you lose. And basically that's the when the surrender is. That's when the submission is. Islam in submission, and Tao, it talks about going with the flow, and surrender your ego. Buddhists talk about that. So basically when you raise the white flag, and it doesn't have to be this ceremonious raising of flag, then it's the realization, the understanding, that self-acceptance, and that of the condition of ourselves. That's, I think, when the magic will begin to happen. If but then some people are not following orders, but is that an example of self? The people who are living, quote unquote, is that bravado, or is that foolhardy, or is that acceptance that whatever will happen will happen? I hear as they say, tie your camel but trust in Allah. But yeah, but ultimately it's what we want to do. Like some people just want to be gung-ho. But anyways, the point that I was trying to make: how do you beat the system, whatever system you're in? Because even computers, like, have you watched the movie Eagle Eye? I think the whole universe has an energy. Sometimes, like, if you're really spiteful and negative, you like, you trip over your toe, and you get a sore, toe, and then that leads to a downward cycle. It's almost like everything has an energy and giving you, like, biting. You scratch you cut your finger on the paper, and it's like almost like everything you can feel. Then that happened to me once on like edibles. Fuck. It's like I could feel, and I was driving around. I could feel, and then I got trapped. It was Santa Ana. I was driving on edibles, and they did this. They closed down perimeter by perimeter, like square within square within square, and I got trapped. And finally, when I gave up, and I was ready to confront that, yeah, I might be stopped over, and I have to fess up that I was. And it was a long time ago, so you can pin me on this. And and that's when the things started dissipating. It's kind of like, so we have to accept that. That's what the samurai's highest learning is: the acceptance of their own fate, the fear. That's how they lose the fear of death. But we all have fear of death, even the people who say we're concerned for other people, and I'm not. That's again another egoic deception. So the best way to beat the system would be not to beat the system, unless you're getting beaten to pulp. But that's like a more aikido way, passive way. And I question that too, the passivity, or the nature of passivity. But okay, I think I've rambled enough. Like, imagine, like, diagonalization of Gödel. It's like beating the system. Like, you become self-aware. How did we become self-aware? That's also the same as not beating the system, but became aware of the system. So I think that's when the transcendence happens, where I think we're collectively reaching Omega consciousness, Taylor de Chardin, the tipping point, We are past the tipping point actually, or we're reaching the tipping point, and we'll who knew? People analyze and dissect these um pneumanic consciousness too much, but you have to take it for what it is at face value. And so yeah, the best way to like yeah, so as I was saying, the only way you can hack the reality, the matrix that we're having, is not by exploiting some glitch, but just by pretending that okay, fair enough, this is what it is. It's an artificial stage. We're in a Hollywood set or whatever, the Truman Show, and I'll just go on with it. And then one day you decide, and then one day you come to a point where where you can rock that whole artificial uh, environment, just like Groundhog Day, Bill Murray.